Yo, what's good everyone? Today I'm going to be taking a first look here at this Week 12 NFL DraftKings main slate. Let's dive right into it. And like I always do here in these videos, I'm going to go position by position, highlighting the plays that are sticking out to me here early in the week, and then we'll wrap up this video by putting together a first look cash lineup and a first look tournament lineup. But before we dive into the quarterbacks, everyone, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. It's completely free to do, and every like, comment, and sub that you guys leave truly does help me out here on YouTube. With that being said, let's dive into the quarterbacks, everyone, and the top 4 quarterbacks on this slate are very intriguing to me. Not a single one of these guys priced over $7,000, all sitting in relatively good matchups as well. Considering the upside that all 4 of those guys offer, I think they're going to be in play here this week. Now, if I just had to pick 2 of these guys, it's hard to ignore Drake May. Cincinnati matchup is really good for him. 20 touchdowns on the season, just 5 interceptions. He's provided some sneaky rushing upside all year long. Now, being that he's $6,900, we do need him to get 21 plus DraftKings points in our cash lineup to hit that 3x value, but considering the matchup, he offers that 4-5x value as well that we would want in tournaments. But again, everyone, I like Mahomes here against Indianapolis. There's some shootout potential there. No reason to think that Lamar and this Baltimore offense shouldn't beat up on the New York Jets, but I think Jalen Hurts here would be my second favorite quarterback of these 4. Really good matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. That's been a defense we've been picking on all year long. Sure, they're bringing in Quinnen Williams here. That is going to help their running game, but that's not going to really help the secondary that's been beat up all season. So I like this game environment in general. I think there's some real shootout potential there, especially playing in Dallas. We know it's indoors. We never know what the weather's going to be like at this time of year. But again, the reality is, everyone, is all 4 of these quarterbacks are offering some really nice upside considering their price and the matchup this week. And then I also like Jared Goff here at $6,000, back at home in a good spot against the New York Giants, another defense we've been picking on this year. But I always like targeting the Detroit Lions after a loss, and they just lost here on Sunday night against the Philadelphia Eagles. They're a team that usually rebounds pretty well, especially when they're playing at home. And again, this is another one of those indoor matchups. And then if we're looking to save a little bit of money here this week, how do we not go back to Jacoby Brissett? I'm honestly surprised that DraftKings did not price him up more, just $5,300 here. You can see in every one of his starts, he's hit 20 plus DraftKings points. And I like this spot here again at home this week against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then if for some reason Jackson Dart does not play this week, if I had to guess here on a Monday, he is going to play. But if for some reason he doesn't, just hypothetically speaking, I really do like Jameis Winston here at $4,600. Good spot playing indoors against Detroit. And I like the game script because they're likely playing from behind in this game, where he'd have to throw the ball quite a bit. Now again, we'll need to kind of wait and see with the situation here, but if we get Jameis at $4,600 playing indoors, I don't mind that at all. Now, moving on to the running backs, and DraftKings finally did it. They put Jonathan Taylor here at $10,000. And don't get me wrong, there are plenty of teams and matchups where I would still play him at that price, but I can't say I necessarily love this one against the Kansas City Chiefs, a team that's had one of the better rushing defenses in the NFL for the last few seasons. You know, especially when we're getting value with guys like Gibbs here, $1,700 cheaper at home against the New York Giants. You know, we put the ball in his hands. He is truly electric, can score from anywhere on the field. Love his upside in the rushing game, especially in this matchup, but even more so, his involvement in the passing game is really hard to ignore with PPR scoring. I like Derrick Henry here on the tournament side of things, playing against the New York Jets. Henderson here is really interesting. If we get Ramondre Stevenson to miss again this week, I think this guy will be a cash game and tournament consideration, especially in that matchup there against the Cincinnati Bengals, one of the worst defenses in the NFL. You can see he's really exploded here over the last 2 weeks, hitting 31 and 32 DraftKings points. Really kind of a wait-and-see scenario there with Ramondre Stevenson, but again, if Stevenson does not play, I like Henderson at $6,700. And then creeping into this 5K range here, I like Travis Etienne on the road against Arizona. After the bye, you could see that the Jaguars are really trying to get the ball in his hand more frequently. You can see they had the bye in week 8, and he's had double-digit rushing attempts in every game, 15 plus actually, in 3 straight games, and I like his involvement in the passing game as well. Good spot there against the Arizona Cardinals. And then the last 2 guys that I wanted to highlight here, more on the tournament side of things, are David Montgomery and Kareem Hunt. Monty here, really kind of a similar situation with Jahmyr Gibbs. No, he's not as explosive, but it is a really good matchup at home against the New York Giants, a team that has the worst rushing defense in the NFL through 11 weeks. So again, more of a tournament play there. And then Kareem Hunt, assuming that we have no Isaiah Pacheco again this week, I don't mind going to him in tournaments, and honestly, you can maybe even talk me in to playing him into cash lineups as well. Again, that's assuming that Isaiah Pacheco does not play here this week, but he's now hit double-digit DraftKings points in 3 straight games, and he really takes all of the goal line work. That's really what you're kind of banking on here with Kareem Hunt. Like I said, that's a reason I guess I like him more on the tournament side than cash game side of things, but we only need 15 DraftKings points for him to hit 3x value in cash, and again, it's pretty much done that here over the last 3 games. So those are the cheaper running backs that are sticking out to me. Let's move on to the wide receivers. And like I always do here with these wide receivers, I put the top plays into 3 different tiers, and tier 1 for me this week is going to be Rashee Rice to Jackson Smith and Jigba. I truly believe there's a case to be made to roster any one of these guys here this week, all sitting in relatively good matchups. But if I had to pick a few, I like JSN here in this spot against Tennessee. Seattle will be looking to rebound after losing on Sunday. Amon-Ra St. Brown here in this matchup against the Giants. Like I said, I'll just be on the Detroit Lions in general this week, another team that will be looking to rebound, especially with them playing at home. And then Rashee Rice here against Indianapolis. Those are my top 3 from tier 1, but again, I really do believe there's a case to be made to roster any one of those guys. Tier 2 for me is going to be Justin Jefferson down to Chris Olave. And originally, when I made these notes here last night, I had Drake London as one of my favorite plays in tier 2 here, but I literally just got word on my phone that he is going to miss this week. So if I had to pivot off of that, I think I'd go with Diggs and Olave. I had Olave on my notes originally, but I don't mind going to Steph Diggs here against Cincinnati. He's been getting better by the game with Drake May. You can see here he's hit double-digit DraftKings points now going back to week 7, coming off of a really nice game here where he had 22.5 DraftKings points. And I guess we've only really seen 1 or 2 ceiling games from him. This is a guy that can still go for 30-plus DraftKings points, so I like him at $6,500. And I also like Chris Olave here at $6,400. And I notice this is being a bit delayed on the player card, so bear with me. I do apologize for that. My computer is cooking right now. I can actually hear the fans. It's one of those days where the computer is slow. Happy Monday to you all. But I do like Chris Olave here. He's been super consistent all year long. I'd like to see him get back to the double-digit target range 2 weeks here now, where he has not hit that. But overall, $6,400. Pretty good price tag there for a tier 2 guy. And then tier 3 for me is going to be Zay Flowers all the way down to Devontae Smith. If I had to pick a few from there, I'd go with Michael Pittman Jr. here. Tougher matchup on the road against Kansas City for sure. But I do believe there's some shootout potential there. I like the Eagles wide receivers here, A.J. Brown at $5,900, as well as Devontae Smith at $5,600. And then Jamison Williams has really stepped it up here over the last few games, so I wanted to highlight his player card. Now, he's not a super high volume guy. You can see he's not hit double-digit targets all year long. I do like how they've been a little more consistent coming off of the bye with 6, 7, and 7 in his last 3 games. And if you go back to week 6 here, he's now hit 16.5 plus DraftKings points in 4 of his last 5 games. Not bad for a guy priced there at $5,700, especially considering that matchup against the Giants. And then we'll get into some of these individual plays here. The first guy that I wanted to highlight in the 4K range was Michael Wilson of the Arizona Cardinals, who absolutely balled out in week 11. 18 targets. They were trying to come back here against the 49ers, so don't bank on that week in and week out, but 15 catches, 185 yards, 36.5 DraftKings points, just absolutely smashed value at his price. And assuming that Marvin Harrison Jr. is not going to play this week, that's a wait and see type of deal there. I like Michael Wilson at $4,800. I also don't mind a couple of guys here on the tournament side of things with Jacoby Myers and Rashid Shaheed, both playing with their new teams. And then if for some reason that Darius Slayton does not play again here this week, we might be able to save some money at $3,300 with Isaiah Hodgins. be a really nice cheap stack there with Jameis Winston. Again, assuming that Dart does not play. But if we could get both those guys in the 4 and 3K range at Detroit in a game they're likely playing from behind, that might be a nice way to kick off our cash lineup. We then got the tight ends, and some of these guys are starting to be priced up just a little bit, but I truly believe there's a case to be made to roster any one of these top 3 guys here with Trey McBride, Brock Bowers, and Tyler Warren. McBride has been absolutely dominant with Jacoby Brissett under center. You can see there he's now hit 29 plus DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4 games. I like Brock Bowers at 6,000, like Warren at 55, and also like Travis Kelce here at $5,000. He'll probably be one of those tight ends who flies under the radar again due to the upside that those other guys offer. They're kind of looking at old man Kelce here and going, I'd rather spend up for some of these young guys. Well, don't overlook this guy because he's getting more involved by the game, coming off of a game with 13 targets, 91 receiving yards, scored a touchdown as well. He might be a sneaky play heading into week 12. And then after Kelce here, it kind of drops into the low 4K range. I don't mind Dallas Goedert there, but really kind of looking into this mid 3K range. I like Colston Loveland against Pittsburgh. There's clear evidence the Bears want to get him more involved. With Cole Kmet back, he is going to split a few targets at the tight end position and a few snaps with him, but Ben Johnson's made it very clear that they want to get the ball in this guy's hands, as well as Luther Burden, both of those rookies. Barner, this is a really interesting one for me, coming off of a game where he scored 17 DraftKings points, had 11 targets. Will the consistency be there going forward? That's the question mark that I have, right? I'm not entirely sure, but that volume is really intriguing for a guy priced at $3,300. And then the last 2 that I wanted to highlight here were Noah Fant. He has been consistent enough for me to go to him at $3,100, especially with Joe Flacco. If you go back to Green Bay here, he's now hit 6+ DraftKings points in every game with Joe Flacco. That's 2x value at that price. And then if we're really looking to punt here, the top 2 tight ends are out for the Jaguars right now, and we could go with Johnny Munt here at $2,600. Now, don't expect much from him. He's $2,600 for a reason, but he is technically the starting tight end coming off of a game with 3 targets. Is that enough for us to justify it? I'm not entirely sure. Again, that's why it's a punt option here at $2,600. But if you're looking to really save money at this position, that was the guy that stuck out for me. And then we got the defenses here. If we're looking to spend up this week, the Seahawks, Ravens, and Packers are all sitting nice as spend up options. If we're looking to save a little money here this week, I don't mind the Browns facing the Las Vegas Raiders at $2,900. I think the Saints are fine here against Atlanta, especially considering that Drake London is not going to play. And then maybe Minnesota here. I don't love that they're on the road in Green Bay. I'd like that a lot better if they were at home, but I think they're fine there at $2,500, but the cheap play that is sticking out to me is going to be the Saints here at $2,500. Again, especially considering that London is not going to play here this week. And now we're going to put together this first look cash lineup, everyone. But before we do that, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that. I want to make content for a living, and every like, comment, and sub that you guys leave truly does help me get closer to that goal by the day. So again, if you could do it, I would really appreciate that. Now, I know I mentioned earlier when going through the quarterbacks that I do believe Jackson Dart will play coming off of the concussion, but just hypothetically speaking here, I like the concept of going to Jameis Winston if he does play. So let's start with this. We're going to put in Jameis Winston here, and then I'm going to go to the wide receiver position right off of the bat and assume that Darius Slayton's not going to play either, so we can stack him up with Hodgins. That's a really cheap way to start our cash lineup. That would be beautiful if we could do that here in Week 12. Now let's go back to the running backs. We're going to put in Gibbs, and then I'm going to put in ETN as well. I like the way that he's been playing, and I do like that matchup against Arizona. And then we should be able to spend up for a wide receiver here, so I'm going to go with JSN. And then I'm going to go with Michael Wilson as well, the guy who just balled out here in Week 11. Now, we'll go to the tight end next. Let's save some money here with Colston Loveland, knowing he'll probably get at least 4 or 5 targets in this game. Let's go to the defense and pay for the Saints. Don't mind that matchup against Atlanta. That gives us $8,100 for a flex. We could go with Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rashee Rice, CeeDee Lamb. It really doesn't matter, right? Like, we could pick any one of these top-tier guys. for the sake of things here, let's go with Rashee Rice. That gives us, what, a few extra $100 left over to pivot elsewhere if we wanted to. But for a first look cash lineup, assuming that Jameis and Hodgins get the go and the start for the Giants, I actually quite like that. And then my favorite part of this video, putting together a first look tournament lineup. And I've talked about this game between the Eagles and Cowboys quite a bit, so let's build a game stack around that. And I'm going to go with Jalen Hurts here, good spot against that Cowboys secondary, and stack him up with his top 2 wide receivers in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, both very affordable here in the 5K range. And then we're going to try and run it back there with CeeDee Lamb as well and fill in our top 3 wide receiver spots. Now at the running back position, we'll need to save a little money here, but I like Monty and Kareem Hunt, both in similar situations, right? We need kind of these guys to score 2 touchdowns in their game, and I like the environment to where they could do that. So let's go with Monty here, and then Kareem Hunt. Now at the tight end position, we will need to save money. I'm just going to punt here with Johnny Munt. And no, I did not mean for that to rhyme. And then we'll go to the flex spot here. I'd like to get to Derrick Henry in this spot against the New York Jets, especially considering they're missing Quinnen Williams. 3,400 for a defense. I'll do an opposites thing here. I went with the New Orleans Saints in my cash lineup. Let's go with the Atlanta Falcons in my tournament lineup. So we're doing kind of an Eagles stack there. We got 2 cheap running backs where we're looking for them to punch in 2 touchdowns. Derrick Henry in a good spot against the Jets. I kind of like that for a first look tournament lineup. Alright everyone, that is going to wrap up this video here for today. As always, thank y'all for taking the time out of your day to watch the content here on this channel. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate that.